What's going on, my dudes? Today I have a teeny bit of a story time for you guys, talking about why I made the move from Vancouver to Kelowna. So a couple weeks ago, I posted a video kind of documenting my whole journey of moving out, leaving my parents' house, moving 4 hours to Kelowna, moving in, the house, the city, all of that stuff. But I never explained to you guys why I made the move. And that was a common question that came up quite a bit in the comment section actually, was why did you move to Kelowna? I thought you loved Vancouver. I've said it many times before, but Vancouver is like my favorite city in the entire world. You got the beach, the mountains, the trails, the hiking. The city itself is just beautiful. It's immaculate. I love that place. So why did I move? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One being is that it's significantly cheaper to live in Kelowna than in Vancouver. It's still expensive, but it is cheaper. Another was that I just wanted to change of pace. Last year I did a lot of traveling, and this year I thought, why not move out? With that being said though, there are tons of places I could have gone. I didn't have to land in Kelowna, but the reason I did was because I'm helping with a church up here. Let me introduce you guys to someone. So this is Ryan. I've known him for about 7 years now. He was my pastor growing up throughout high school and into university. Ryan pastored me through some tough times as I was growing up, and he's been by my side for the past 7 years, helping me grow in so many different capacities, both spiritually and personally. Ryan and his family have had a huge impact on my life. 2 years ago, Ryan and his wife felt called to plant a church up here in Kelowna, so they quickly packed up everything and they moved up here. How did this whole thing come up?
This was one of those kind of out of nowhere for us. We were part of a church I had attended for 30 years, really grown up there myself, going through youth and stuff. Got on staff, and things were great, and the culture was great, and just really felt like the roots were slowly being massaged, kind of 2016, early 2016, and all of a sudden we started seeking counsel and just kind of praying through a bunch of stuff and what the heck's coming next? And fast forward, much to our surprise, we were moving to Kelowna, and there's so much story to that. But
that's crazy. So what is Vintage?
Vintage, what it is, it's a church. It's another church in Kelowna. Can you just fathom that? Honestly, even moving up here, we're like, why are we moving to Kelowna to plant a church? There's 1,000 of them. I just really started thinking a lot more in my own time that throughout the generations, whether it's recorded in the Bible, pen and paper, quill and parchment, or through today, God really hasn't changed how he does things. And I kind of came up with this saying that he reveals his character through the lives of his people. As we were kind of embodying that idea, moving up here, we got to name a church, and it's wine country. And wine country has a great way of capturing a moment every year. It's called a vintage. And all that. You can go to your favorite winery in town. I won't tell you which one mine is, but you can go there, and next year's Merlot is going to be different than last year's Merlot. And even if you love it, there's these differences. So it's just understanding that God's doing different things through us. And we just really felt that we just need to be present.
Totally.
We just got to be part of the community. The church hasn't always looked like, I think, what, even if you have a poor understanding of what church is supposed to be, there's this, it's supposed to be good, it's supposed to be loving. And we always haven't knocked that one out of the park.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of just kind of being a little bit more low-key. Even when we do Sunday services and stuff, we try to make it very accessible, kind of culture stuff that we were doing on the coast, this idea of have questions, for sure, and demand answers. Let's actually get further down the road, not just have presuppositions and things that we've thought for years passed off to us, or we've only thought about this much about something rationally and haven't really explored it. So we just wanted this to be a great place for people to have doubts,
totally
hang out, enjoy life together, and not sweat the details too much and just see what God does.
For sure. The kind of have questions, demand answers mentality, that has played such a huge role in my journey to where I am with my faith, and that is a huge thing that Vintage is very open to having people come in and kind of figure out what church looks like. And
we were talking, if you're saying launch, so we're talking about building up to our going weekly. We had non-believing people, non-Christians on part of our launch team. It was just hey, if you're kind of trying to figure out what this is all about, but you've got a good attitude and you see the value of at least the community aspect.
Helping people out just in general.
Just come on out and you can figure things out. And then we always just kind of say either Jesus is who he said he was, and this is going to be the craziest ride of your life, and it's going to be amazing, or we're insane and you need to run and never look back. It's one or the other, and we get that. We will leave some pretty crazy stuff, but when you actually sit down and you look at it, you know, ideologically, when you look at it with the history, and then you start to understand some really crazy stuff like God's actually personal, then all those things can kind of get addressed and make that solid decision one way or the other.
Totally. Another thing that we need to, or I want to address, is like what makes Vintage different? Like what, like you said at the beginning, why another church in Kelowna?
Yeah, not a whole lot, you know. We kind of came up here saying we're not reinventing the wheel. We're not coming up here, you know, espousing that we got some brilliant take on the church that hasn't really been figured out in the last several thousand years, or even just in the last generation or two. But just really trying to stick to this idea of being present. So I mean, if there's something that's going on in the community, we're trying to be there alongside what the community's doing. We don't have to invent our own thing. We just want to go and love on people. And we always teach our people, like, just love without an expectation.
Yeah.
We're just like, just be present in someone's life.
And that's huge.
I've ended up hanging out with people that I've met at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Like, why? Why not? Like,
there's been some pretty crazy stories just thus far of like how people have gotten involved in it, like kind of brought into the fold. It's crazy.
Just random meetups, and honestly, like, you can miss those things so easily. And I think like my senior pastor, when I was talking to him kind of in the early days of my transition, said something great where he's like, you know, some of the best friends and deepest relationships you're ever going to have, you're going to now go to meet these people.
Yeah.
Like, because we just left everything, grabbed our kids and headed out of town. So yeah, I think it's just being present, and I think, you know, the church has done a really good job of staying inside of its four walls versus just going out and loving people where they're at. You know, Jesus did that weird thing.
Yeah.
So maybe we should try it. Just throw it out there.
For sure.
Biggest distinction would probably be we have a really big push on our midweek get-togethers. We just need people in our lives. You know, it's great that we can stay connected through social media better than ever. But for people to actually see what you're going through, or to risk actually going, things aren't amazing today.
For sure.
Or for you to flat out lie and say everything's fine, but they know you and they go, dude, that's not right.
Yeah.
And obviously we believe after, you know, that kind of surface, was really important, but that surface level part, obviously there's a God who's active behind that. So
totally.
We just, you know, it's a long, slow game because relationships are slow and they're risky and they're messy. But I think the church really needs to be called to be in the mess a bit more.
For sure. That's been something that's been huge to me, is that idea of pushing for the midweek. And I think that honestly, as I've gotten involved in like a small group or a Bible study or something that connects you to the church and the people around you that are growing in Christ together with you, that's not just on a Sunday, has made the biggest impact in my faith journey.
Totally. Yeah, and it's no surprise. It's always been like that.
Yeah.
But it's easier to check things out, you know, depending on the way that, you know, do you like big groups or like small groups? So some people will check out a Sunday, but we're just pretty open with our culture. It's like, hey, you're welcome to pop by a Sunday service. That way you can experience a small part of what this church is.
Yeah.
If that's all you ever do here, you're kind of missing the point of what, you know, God, community is supposed to look like as far as the Bible's concerned.
What's the ultimate mission of Vintage? What's the vision, the Vintage vision?
Vintage vision. Well, hopefully the same as every other church. Essentially, it's like, if Jesus is who he said he was, then he's worthy of not just note, but like chasing after.
For sure.
I love the whole idea that Jesus teaches, where it's not a matter of like, you know, just knowing God for the sake of right and wrong, but he teaches in these stories. And then the stories, it's like these guys have these possessions, they have these things that they've been chasing after their whole life, and then they accidentally bump into the kingdom of God, and it kind of, the picture it paints is like, with all joy, they sell everything so they can buy, you know, this plot of land where this prize was found, or, you know, and so it's not a poo-poo or stop doing this, but like, what God has for us is good. He's good. So I think honestly, it's just a matter of, you know, if Christianity gets it right, we want to make a personal introduction to who God is and why. Well, I don't get anything out of that.
Yeah.
You know, as far as, you know, heaven or personal blessing, it's got nothing to do with that. But it's like, here's something that is so good for you, that'll be so amazing for you, and I can't give it away.
Totally.
I can extend it to someone else, but I'm never going to lose it. So, you know, church is Jesus. Like, at the end of the day, this is not social justice. I believe that plays into some of the good news of what God was doing. We obviously want to see, you know, bad crap in society diminish and not increase. We want to see people loved, not hated, but at the same time, you know, you can do all those things, but it's getting just to say, hey, there's just someone we want you to meet.
For sure. And there it is. That is the story of why I made the move from Vancouver up here to Kelowna. I'm so excited to see what is to come in the next couple of years. Vintage really hasn't been around for that long, and already the impact they've had in the Kelowna and the West Kelowna communities and the lives they've been able to touch just blows my mind. I'm so thankful to be involved in this amazing church with these amazing people in this amazing community. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're local and you happen to be in the Kelowna or West Kelowna area, you want to come check out what Vintage is and what we're doing, I'll put all the information in the description box below and you can check that out for yourself. You're totally welcome. I hope to see you there. Other than that though, thank you so much for watching, guys. I appreciate every single one of you so much, and I'll see you all in another one.